Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Friday live. I did not get the video out. Shelby, my assistant, Jamie, I'm waiting on Jamie. So I was going to wait for her, but she should be showing up any minute now. And when she shows up, I will put her up here on the screen. Hey, everybody. Hey. Bleach for Life. Hello. Thanks for joining me today. AR, what's happening? Hopefully everything's good with you this week. I have been making promo videos and putting the promo videos out saying that we're going to be here live. Here comes Jamie.
Sorry about that.
No problem. I assume you were in hair and makeup.
I was trying to find a little jacket to put on.
I'm only kidding you. Hey, everybody. I was thinking about this, Jamie. Like last week, I was saying it has been a week. And then this week's been a week. It's like literally crazy. It's been another crazy week. And then I thought to myself, hey, Pedro, thanks for joining on your first live, joining me and Jamie. Last week I was saying, what a crazy week, but then I thought maybe Fridays at noon is always going to be a crazy time, but that's okay. It'll be a fun time, like I've been working a lot this week. I texted Jamie earlier that all my teenagers have had a lot of friends here. School starts in less than 3 weeks for the kids. So, it has been a party town central around here where everybody's been, we're doing Q&A. Everybody's been here. So I'm just settling in, letting people join us. And I have the questions pulled up. Jamie's going to moderate if she's ready to. So what I was saying was it's been a crazy week. So I didn't get the video out. Shelby was supposed to put it out and have it go live the other day. But this morning when I went in to see what questions were there, the video still hadn't been published. So I made it live then. And there's some really good questions, even though there's only a few of them. And of course, then we can springboard off of those. And I'll give Jamie a second to get it pulled up. But are you ready, Jamie? Or you want me to start with a question? I can't hear you. I don't think your headset's on. Let's see. No, you're muted, actually. I can see you're muted. Maybe.
Unmute.
There we go.
Now? Okay.
Yep, gotcha.
All right. So we didn't have, a lot of questions posted, but that means, entering questions into the chat box, and we'll try to get to them all. So I've got one from Dexter 446. Is listening to audio sex the same as watching pornography?
Yeah, it's a great question. So our themes for today, we're trying to stick with some themes just so that we're not always answering the same questions. And we're totally I'm going to answer that question. But what we have been focusing on this week is, getting rid of pornography, taking it out of your life, taking the thoughts that come along with it out of your life. And then we'll talk about audios now too, but to be able to create healthy sexuality. So if you're actually going to get porn out of your life, there's two absolutely necessary components. Number one, you have to build healthy ways to deal with stress and anxiety. Mood regulation. We know that's why most people go to porn in the first place, to take the edge off. Number two is you have to develop healthy sexuality. So those are going to be our filters. Go to do something else that's healthy to take the edge off of anxiety, stress, and boredom. And that's engagement in your life. That's what we're talking about there. Get engaged in life. And I'll talk about that in a minute. The other aspect is building healthy sexuality. And for most people, and this will probably put a couple of questions together, and I'll get back to the audio. For most people, they want a partner. If you don't have a partner right now and you watch porn, you're basically prepping yourself to have difficulty finding a partner and keeping a partner because you're not being a good, healthy sexual partner. So you're growing up your sexuality in the wrong way, which will lead you to unhealthy partners or no partner at all. So let's get back to the audio question, and then I'll say a couple other things about that. So, like, why are you going to listen to audio sex? The why. The why is likely to regulate your mood. And I know at the beginning of this journey, you think they're sexual thoughts, you think that they are sexual feelings, and really becoming intentional and discerning, figuring out what is actually sexual in nature and feeling sexual versus just feeling anxious and wanting to take the edge off. Those two things become important to split them apart. So, like, what is the point in listening to audio sex? Likely it's for a dopamine hit to take the edge off. And so that doesn't constitute healthy sexuality. It's still using an object for sexual gratification, probably to avoid negative emotions. So, think about the why. And if your why is different from that, I want you to peel the layers back on your why, a few layers, because if it's just I'm feeling sexual, there's usually more to it. You have to go back another layer to, that there's negative feelings in there. What are you feeling and what is making you go towards that? So, what's the point with audio sex? That's not healthy sexuality. Let me tell you what healthy sexuality is. If you have a partner, it's being with your partner. And I made an awesome video, actually two of them with my new whiteboard, which is, I know it's not high tech. I was going to use a screenwriter, but we'll get there eventually, on the difference between porn sex and real sex. We know that porn sex is not real sex. And I've been digging into the research again, which is really cool. So that's not what actual human beings want to do. So my point is, you should be prepping your mind to either be with your partner in a really healthy way. And you can watch for that video next week. And we'll talk about it on the live next week, actually. Or be building intimacy or connection and looking to brew real relationships with people. Hey, Craig, I see a shout out from Craig. How's it going? Thanks for joining me today. So you get my point about that. Listening to audio sex, that's not moving you in the direction of being with a person in real life. It's probably for mood regulation. You have another question there, Jamie?
I do. And I'm going to go back and forth from the questions that we are having listed, just to kind of give a little bit of both worlds. Is sexting a problem?
Yeah, this is a great question. So, okay, I see some good questions in the chat, so we will definitely get
This
to
is
that
from
question.
Matthew. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hey, Matthew. So, is sexting a problem? So, again, think about, why are you sexting? I guess a theme for today is going to be, let's peel it back to the why. So, is it somebody you care about? And I get this question a lot. So I've thought about this before, right this very moment. And I've answered it by email to people, actually. So, is sexting okay? If it's a form of foreplay with someone that you actually have connection with, someone you care about, and, especially in this, strange time where people have been separated for a really long time and people are on different continents that have been in relationships, then you want to do something to keep the spark going, to keep the fire alive. And sexting can be healthy in that way. If it's a random person, if it's somebody you don't care about, then you're using it for dopamine hits. And yesterday I recorded a podcast with an author of a book on pornography addiction and overcoming it. He overcame a porn addiction himself. His name's Havard Mela. Hopefully he's listening, because I butchered his name yesterday when I introduced him on the podcast, and I've been practicing it ever since. Havard Mela. See how well it's coming off now. Yesterday, not so much. But anyway, his book is on thriving in the 21st century and how to thrive in the world of porn and digital distraction. Digital distraction is a real love of his. So sexting is a form of digital distraction for dopamine hits. They're super normal stimuli. Porn is the biggest super normal stimuli, meaning it hijacks your brain and it makes you want to go back in for dopamine hits. Sexting's on that ladder also. So if you're doing it for a dopamine hit, not okay. because it goes into and I think this is an easy way for us to think about it. The two categories we're talking about, which probably will develop on this theme, is if you're using it to just get a little hit to feel good, that is mood regulation. That's avoidance of negative emotions usually, or just boredom. And I really like talking to Havard because he's like, in this day and age, people will just troll their phones. He called it passive use of digital media. And I don't do that. So I thought he really brought a lot to the conversation. And I know so many people do, that they just sit around like just consuming what's ever thrown at them, where I think of it as being intentional with your time. He talks about passive versus active engagement with social media. So if sexting is just to get a hit with a random person and somebody you don't care about, not good for you. It's mood regulation. If it's a honey and you're using it in a healthy way to, build excitement about being with each other later on over the course of the day, that's foreplay. That's great in terms of healthy sexuality. That is planting the seed of intimacy and pleasure and connection. So use it wisely. Just be, discernment, be intentional. Let's see. Give some shout outs. Hi, Doug and Paula. Thanks for joining me. Kyle, I know you have some really good questions. So Jamie hopefully is going to get to one or two of them because you got some real good questions there. Jamie, I'll send it back to you.
All right, I got one from Needham Verma. Today is the ninth day. It is very difficult to get to sleep during previous nights. Consuming porn is very easy, getting rid of very thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I do not know how many days I will survive. Enter day was... This actually is not a question. I apologize.
Well, I can kind of speak to the idea that you led with, because it's an idea that is important that a lot of people say. I'm on day 9, I'm on day 12, I'm on day 19. And I've been thinking about this a lot too, is that, and I can talk about Kyle's question too, about, is it healthy to not masturbate? And, I know a lot of people are very concerned about seed retention, about not masturbating, not ejaculating. We'll talk about that in a second. It does not cause cancer. And that is a misnomer. It's more important for you to, I'll just answer the question now and then we'll move on. But it's a misnomer in that it's going to cause cancer. The risk of cancer is significantly lower than all of the problems that a pornography habit or a masturbation compulsion, having to go back to it, are going to create. So the goal is, though, and I know a lot of people don't love me saying this, especially if it's younger people who don't have partners, the goal is, as you are moving towards healthy sexuality, it's to be in a partnership so that you can have healthy sex with a person, have the experience with a person. That is what real sex is. Porn is not sex at all. It's a performance. First of all, everything that happens in it, some really cool new studies showing that, I love me some science and I love a study that, the people in the performances are not enjoying themselves, but they are portraying it, which is tricking your brain. And that's an interesting concept, but I'm going to make some videos on the next couple of weeks. But so the goal is not to retain your seed for the rest of your life. For a short amount of time, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or any time shorter than that, it's healthier for you to rewire your brain and get yourself on track. So if you're on day 50 or 60, you're fine. And as we know, as you'll see in the comments, that your body will purge that in nocturnal emissions if it needs to. If it doesn't, great. If it does, no big deal, because your body and your brain are rewiring and recalibrating themselves, which is really good for you. And you will not be at a greater risk for cancer. But so I wanted to also talk about, I'm on day 9, I'm on day 12. Those are the trickiest days for most people. And I loved what Havard had to say yesterday, is that framework shifting, and I talk about this too, but I like hearing it from him. Framework shifting your concept of time and your goals can really make it so that, when you were starting to say, like, I can't sleep, it's day 9, I haven't slept well in a couple nights, being able to push through the discomfort in the short run will make you feel significantly better in the long run. And hopefully you'll listen to the podcast when it comes out next week, because what Havard said is that like he didn't even really know in those moments when he was pushing through the discomfort, he created the discipline to push through the discomfort. And he didn't even know like how much better it was going to make him feel after he was able to rewire his brain. And so when you're focused on that end goal, but you have to create an end goal for yourself. So on day 9, you totally know what you want your life to be like a year from now. And when people come into my practice, I have a private practice with my hubby. And when people would come in, I would say to them, what do you want your life to look like 1 year from now? Because change takes time. And so when they would tell me the difference of what they have going on now versus what they want to have happening 1 year from now, that gives you a goal that you can anchor into. So on day 9, you can get to day 10 because you can see the vision of, you know, going back to school next year, or getting a job that you really love, or, you know, rock climbing to some heights, or, you know, any goal that you set. So set a goal today of what you want your life to include a year from now. And on the tricky days, push through the discomfort. But if you've ever seen the comments that I put on YouTube, you have to change something. Change as much as you can, because that will really, really help you out. Thank you, David. David says, I have a great point. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see who else we've got here. David has some questions, but I'm going to let Jamie read through them. Hello from India. Hello. Robert, nice to see you. Peter's here. Women set the bar so high, it's virtually impossible to find a woman for a real relationship. Peter, Jamie, you can look for the next question. I promise I won't hijack the whole thing, but I really want to speak about this because, you know, I'm talking about relationships, and some people commented back that, you know, the relationship that you talk about is a pipe dream. It would be a miracle for me. And I know that some women set the bar so high, and something that I'm talking a lot about these days is emotional maturity. So an emotionally mature woman doesn't set the bar unreasonably high for whomever she wants to attract to herself. She's looking for an emotionally mature partner somewhere on that continuum from, you know, 0 is completely emotionally immature, not being able to handle life at all and acting sporadically. Emotionally mature is being able to handle everything that comes at you with grace. And we're all somewhere in between that. But if you find someone who the bar is so high, that's probably not an emotionally mature person. So it is not impossible. I know it might feel impossible now, and I know it might not be super easy. So I'm also not discounting it. But if you put yourself out there in circles of like-minded people, you have a greater likelihood of meeting someone who is like-minded that you can build a connection with. And again, like going out into the world looking for a relationship, you know how that goes. When you look for something, you'll literally never find it, right? Like when I'm worried about making money, I make no money. When I'm worried about healing the world, then money flows to me. It's the same thing with relationships. And actually, I was talking about somebody, I think I recorded it in a video the other day, where when my husband and I met, and, you know, we do not have the world's most perfect relationship. We have a great one, and we've been working on it for 20 years. When we first met, we hung out with this group of friends. And every Thursday we did a lot of other things, but every Thursday we would go to this diner and have breakfast. And I owned restaurants back in the day. And I was working in my restaurant. Thursday mornings was basically the time I could go chill because the restaurants were open, you know, late. So, and then he asked me out. And I'm like, no way, dude, we cannot go out because then we'll break up and then we can't all hang out. And that would be a bummer for me. So the answer is no. And so then, you know, we kept hanging out. And then one morning, you know, he just showed up at my door. That was kind of the end of it. But that morning was like a year later, after a year of us building connection. We became super good friends. And I definitely wasn't looking for a relationship. I actually proclaimed, not to date myself, that was Y2K. The year 2000 was from 1999. And anybody who's my age or older might remember that they were saying that all the electrical grid, everything was going to shut down when it went from 1999 to the year 2000, that the whole world would implode because nothing nothing could handle it. And so I proclaimed Y2K the year of Trish, because I was in no relationship and I was just working on myself, which is definitely a theme that we need to talk about here. Like, work on yourself and it will come to you. And so, then I was hanging out with this group of friends, just the year of Trish. And then I met my husband, and, it was through that year, towards the end of the year. And I remember my sister saying, "What happened to the year of Trish?" And I'm like, well, that year's over, because I'm moving forward. But I wasn't looking for the relationship. I really was focusing on myself, the year of Trish, growing myself up, becoming a healthier version, making difficult decisions in my life, where we can cross that bridge when we get to it. But because I made those difficult decisions on my own, for myself, going against what everybody else wanted for me, I figured out what I wanted, which is what I'm always telling you all: figure out what you want, get convicted to it, and then move forward. And then it starts to come to you. So I know that might not be, what you want to hear, but if you believe there's someone out there for you, but you also are focused on becoming a healthy version of yourself, the electromagnetic frequency around your brain and body literally improves, and it pulls people towards you. You become a magnet. Brain cells are magnets. And when they're not healthy, they repel. When they are healthy, they attract. So get really attractive, and that person will come to you.
All right, I've got another question from Check Cable. He says, as a single man who's up in age, how would I cultivate a healthy mindset in order to find the right spouse?
Yeah, beautiful. So again, not looking for a spouse. And I've talked to someone I'm coaching. Hopefully, if he's here, he doesn't mind me anonymously discussing our discussion, but he's actually in a really good place, where he was going to hang out with friends this weekend, and feeling really good about that. But in the end, he is hopeful that he can get in a relationship and find a spouse. But he's come to the realization that what I just said, working on himself and throwing himself out there with friends, is the best thing for him, and that it will keep leading to something else. And, so becoming healthy. So if you keep watching pornography, you are not a healthy sex partner. That is, I know a lot of people might not want to hear that, but it's totally true. If you keep watching porn, you're doing the opposite. So you have to stop watching porn. How do you become a healthy sex partner after that? You do all the things that I presented in the video the other day on the whiteboard, and then in shorter version. There's lots of elements of a healthy partner. Easy element: give more than you take, and then you will attract to you. Be kind to people, build intimacy, connection with other people. Prepare yourself to just be a good individual that is sticking to your true nature, because then you will pull someone towards you. And, I've worked with, and I know many people who have found someone for the next season of their life in some of those later seasons. And you can have the most wonderful life when you do that, by drawing the person to you, not trying to go find them, which you can't do on Tinder. You can't do in apps. The rare person can do it in an app. But by engaging your life in the things that you enjoy is how you're going to meet people. And again, using the filter of engaging in things that create more emotional maturity. So think about what you like right now and go do more of those things. Building a community, because for every 5 people you meet, there'll be 5 other people who they know, and 5 other people that you will build connection with. And in that group, you will pull someone to you that is like-minded and that you can attract to you.
So I've got a couple questions that's kind of asking, or a couple people that are kind of asking the same question. But basically, you touched on this in the last Q&A, but semen retention, obviously, let me see if I can actually find the...
Yeah, and actually, while you do that, Jamie, I'm going to answer one of David's questions, because it sparked. David has a question. He's on day 55. What's the impact of music during a reboot? Super great question. And yesterday, I had the idea that I am going to create and this also answers AR's question about comedy. because I've been feeling weird. I was feeling weird yesterday, and I'm like, you know what? Why do I feel weird? And I had to get quiet and think about why. And I talk about this when I feel weird and make space. I figure it out. And it's because, like, I think I lost a little bit of my lightness a little bit. So, thinking about music and comedy, I am going to create a playlist on YouTube and on Instagram for songs to quit porn by. And thinking about music, because David says that before 2020, he listened to a lot of heavy metal and it had a similar effect. It was very stimulating, similar effect to pornography. Needed more and more music, harder. And that's the same thing, ramping up the intensity level, not necessarily in a sexual way, but in a stimulation way. And yesterday, I like Eminem, which I don't. If you hate him, I don't care, because there's a few relationships that have lasted my entire life. My love of Eminem is one of them. So yesterday, I'm in the car with my 10-year-old daughter. He has an album that is like music to be murdered by, which is obviously not a good thing. But I like Eminem. My daughter's like putting on Eminem songs, but he's actually very motivational and totally empowering. Yeah, there's some, not great stuff in there too, but it made me think that there's songs that can inspire you to become the best version of yourself, and to, the theme of all the movies. I thought about this about movies too. Movies and music can be really impactful, and listening to music that empowers you, but at the right level, not overly stimulating, but not, unless you want to calm yourself down. My same little daughter, simultaneously, were listening to Eminem, and she was creating a sleepy time playlist in her phone, which was really cute, because songs to bring your nervous system down by. So, now when you spend time, and David said, now he spends time reading books, and it calms his nervous system. Like, I listen to Eminem and actually that was my workout playlist that she was playing. And I did say to her, baby, got to turn the workout playlist off because I'm driving right now and it's not conducive to driving in heavy traffic. Because it is conducive to punching my punching bag and to rocking out a great workout, jacking up my nervous system so that I can do more push-ups than I normally do burpees when I'm prompted to do burpees by my app and I want to do a burpee 0%. But when I have that music cranking, it stimulates your nervous system, but I also don't go overboard. And, thinking about comedy, like AR asked, we have to keep things light and fun. So comedy's so good for your brain. And AR, I know you had another question up top that I'll just touch upon, is that, like, when you calm yourself down, does it make you sleepy? Like, when you go from hyper aroused, which we know when you go back to porn, your nervous system is in this jacked up, hyper aroused state, and it's looking for a dose of hypo arousal to bring it down. When you bring it down, does it bring you down too much? The answer is no, not if you're doing something that you love. It brings it down actually into the optimal state of calm focus, which means you feel really good, but you can have your best ideas too. So I'm always talking about those brain speeds, the three main brain speeds, extra fast, medium, and extra slow. When you're in that medium, this is a really cool thing. When you're in that medium state and you're really in this calm focused state, you actually engage the fastest electrical energy, gamma, which is the speed of inspiration and epiphanies. That's why if you're in the shower and you're totally chilling, your brain's relaxed, you're not really thinking, and you have the best idea you've ever had. Or a lot of times that'll happen to me when I go on walks where I don't put the tunes in and I just walk, and I'll come back with a great idea, because that medium state actually put me into a state of inspiration. So yes, don't overstimulate your nervous system. And music, that's why I thought music to quit porn by. The music today is, and honestly, I like some of it, except for it's mostly so terrible. Like, the fact that I can't put one song on in the kitchen that my children like because they're all so bad and so sexualized is really a rough state of affairs. But, so we need to get away from that. So listening to music, all of it will plant seeds in your brain. The music that you listen to is going to inform the way you think about sex. So that's why, unfortunately, Cardi B or, Megan Thee Stallion. They have amazing voices, but their messages are just so hypersexualized. All right, Jamie, what do you got for me?
So, RTSB on for the question regarding the retention of semen, it's can it cause cancer? And if
well, that's what I just answered, and the answer is no. It can't. It won't. I see a great question by Robert Alexander that I answered in next week's videos, but I will answer: should men feel insecure on penis size? This is a good question, and I'm going to tell you because I just focused on it, and I was going to try to get some visuals going, and then I'm like, that's out of character for me, and plus doesn't feel that great. But the idea is that in pornography, the actors, the performers, so I want you to remember, they are performers. They are there because they have certain assets that they bring to the type of performance that they are engaging in. And the asset that they have is a 6 to 9 inch penis. And average penises, civilian penises, are 5 to 7 inches. But we know from the science that watching pornography makes men insecure about themselves and about their penis size because you're comparing yourself to not average, to people who are literally hired because that's their deal. And there's not that many of them out there. So don't compare yourself to that. And I'm here to tell you, don't compare yourself to anybody, because when you find someone and you're in a partnership, all that person wants is the whole you, no matter what you have to offer. And so we all have different assets, physical, mental. It's what we do with them and how we offer them to the people in our world. And you really have to get comfortable with that. And, I have no idea how old Robert is, but like, especially as we continue to age, if you care about what your comparison to other people, it creates tons of problems when you're young. As you continue to get older, it creates more problems. And the older you get, you can no longer compare. I'm 48 years old. I cannot compare to an 18-year-old. I cannot compare to a 28-year-old. I can't compare to 28-year-old me. So like, I don't even try to. I am just trying to be the best version of myself right now with what I've been given. That's what I encourage you to do, because when you do that, you're like, yeah. So first of all, if you're in that 5 to 7 range, just know you're doing great. And then secondly, it just shouldn't even matter. It's what you do with what you have and how you can use it for experiences that really should count. Okay, what do you got there, Jamie? Got anything exciting?
So Neil Ramsey has got a question. A lot of no-flap videos claim no-flap improves female attraction, but is this true? And if so, how exactly?
Yeah, it's totally true. And that's what I was just talking about, is that when you are not, first of all, when you're not consuming pornography, which masturbation's generally, and I know there's another question there, like, how do I stop fantasizing? Is fantasy okay? Fantasy is not okay. Fantasy is disassociation. It's you leaving your present condition to go somewhere else, to not have to deal with your present condition. So when you go to fantasy and use it for masturbation, then you are creating negative energy in your brain and nervous system. And there's a few books out there that talk about energy levels that come. Shame is the lowest energy level in a nervous system. That's a book that I've talked about before from Dr. David Hawkins. He's a PhD MD. Shame, lowest energy that's out there. And so we know that porn and masturbation are built on a shame cycle, because sex wasn't meant to be done by oneself. Evolutionarily, it wasn't meant to be performed in a solo. And when you're watching porn, you're by yourself. You're the fourth wall participant of a fake performance. And, even talking about whether it's homegrown, homemade porn or fake artists, it's still fake. Those people making a video, it's for likes. It's for thumbs ups and it's for likes. It's not for enjoyment of an experience. So it's still fake, whether it be performers or anybody who's willing to put a video out there. If you look up people whose tapes get out there. They do not want their tapes out there because people don't want their experiences out there. If they're doing it at a performance, that's another thing. And again, they're likely not healthy if they're doing that. So, when you leave that behind and there's no shame, guess what happens to the energy level in your brain? It literally increases. So, you know how I said our brain cells are like magnets? There's negative and positive energy. Negative's really low energy. And as you start doing things that feel good to you, getting on purpose, work, relationships, hobbies, your energy level literally goes up. And that creates an electromagnetic field around you, an EMF. And so that's why when I'm in a good spot and I walk into a room, people will come over to me. This happens all the time, especially when I know I'm in a good spot. It's pretty wild because I can feel it. I can feel the energy around me. That's why yesterday when I felt off, I'm like, what is up? Why do I feel off? And honestly, I've been too busy. I did not do the things. It's been a week again of protein bars and just running around ragged, which is, so I let and this goes to another question that people always ask is like, will I forever, if I leave porn behind, will I forever need to stay alert and worry about not watching porn? No, because when your energy shifts from the inside, you will feel better. You'll become more attractive to other people. You'll literally feel so much better. You'll feel confident. You can hold your head high. And when shame dissipates, you move into higher levels of energy. So usually there's some anger or sadness, and then you move on to courage. And when you have the courage to change, you can move forward. Then you move towards happiness. The highest resonating energy, guess what it is? Anybody know? Anybody know the highest, which is why I'm here talking about what I'm talking about today. What's the highest level of energy? It is love. It's love. And so when we talk about, power versus force, that's exactly right. Happiness is up there. Yep. Love is the most powerful energy. So that's why we want to raise our energy. And when you're vibing at that high energy, you attract love. Someone wrote that they hear that the heart is stronger than the brain. Our hearts, not that it's stronger than the brain. And I don't know if you know this, back in, ancient Egyptian times, they would take out a person's heart when they died and preserve the heart because they thought it was the center of the being. And then, of course, they realized much later on, that brains are actually running the show in bodies. But that being said, our hearts have a lot of neurons in them. And there's something that's called heart coherence. So if you have a honey, or if you have someone that you're interested in making into your honey, as your energy becomes healthier, hugs are, I was going to say a strategy is hugs, because your hearts come next to each other and they will cohere. They will hit a rhythm that's similar. If your two of you are healthy, that becomes a really healthy bond, and brains attune too. So when you give each other a hug, your brains are next to each other, your hearts are next to each other, your vital parts are next to each other. So which there's chakras, energy centers across your body. And when you align them, that's why you have to become a healthier version of yourself by leaving porn behind, not masturbating behind someone's back. And if you're in a relationship and you still have a masturbation addiction or compulsion, it throws the dynamics off in your relationship. Jamie, if you're okay with it, I'm going to jump over and continue this thought line into porn-induced erectile dysfunction, because I see questions coming up on that. So let's talk about erectile dysfunction for a minute. Is that how can you tell if you've recovered from porn-induced erectile dysfunction? And I've met with a bunch of people this week who said, I have erectile dysfunction. First of all, what can I do to get rid of it? Because that is when people hit DEFCON. And secondly, how do I know it's worked? So this is the story for many people. And if this isn't your story, before I start to tell it, I want you to know that if you have not experienced what I'm about to tell you, and you have been watching pornography consistently, frequently, and especially with any amount of intensity, you're totally at risk for this. Because this is another thing that I thought over this week, is that I have to get back to telling people that if you don't have big problems right now, big problems will be coming if you don't leave this stuff behind, because it really impacts your brain. But what I was going to say is that what happens is you watch pornography and you get this massive level of mental and physical stimulation from the content in pornography, and then more physical stimulation from masturbation. It's more physically stimulating than actually having sex with another person. So you're training your brain to need 1,000 level of stimulation to perform sex. So then now when you go to be with a partner, your honey, she's not 1,000 level. She can't be, even if she's the most beautiful person in the entire world and is, gets her groove on in the bedroom. She can't be 1,000 level. She's only a 500 because other human beings are only 500. But now your brain's trained for 1,000. So when it comes to the 500 level, you just can't even make it happen because you need 1,000. And so what happens to so many people is they'll go to fantasy in their head to try to create arousal, which is bad because what you're doing is you keep bringing your brain, trying to get it up to 800 to get things going. So what has to happen is you have to leave the 1,000% behind. And that includes pornography and masturbation. I'm sorry to tell you, because you have to unwire the brain pattern that needs massive amount of mental and physical stimulation. You have to back that out. And when you do, and especially if you have a honey or you're looking forward to one, then what happens is your brain will recalibrate. And that's what the withdrawal symptoms are a sign of. They can be a good sign. Your brain's recalibrating and it's coming back down and it's getting into the mode that, yep, Alan, exactly. Chakras. I'm going to tell you something about that in a second. I'm sorry, I saw your comment, but you're getting your brain back into the mode where it unwires that pattern that needs 1,000%, and you will be back to the level of 500%. But it takes time. So the more things that you change about your routine and the more you fire your brain up, the better it will be for you. Alan made a comment about chakras. Chakras are actually, I always tell people that when we think of foo-foo energy, and that's not a great term, but that is, more qualitative energy. It's actually neural energy. Chakras are areas of nerve bundles throughout the spine and the spinal column. So there's actually a lot of action. William of Orange did nothing wrong. Hello, my friend. How are you today? I still need to know what William of Orange did not do. I looked it up. I couldn't figure it out. Jamie, did you have a question for me? And then I'll answer William's question once. If you do, if you don't, I'll just keep going.
I do. I'm probably going to say this name right, so I'm just going to say the first part, Sha. I know some people resort to escorts, prostitution when quitting porn. Have you ever helped someone with that issue? And also, is it possible to find a casual partner in today's dating climate?
Yeah, so this is a great question because, yes, I help lots of people with like webcam sex, with escorts or prostitutes. And Shay Pharaoh, however we say Shy Pharaoh, you probably already know the answer. But I'm going to tell you anyways, because I find that most people that I work with, they know the answer to this. They're just stuck in this cycle and in this loop. So they can't get out of it and they can't break the cycle. But in their heart of hearts, they already know the answer to this. When people act out with other people, when they hire, especially an escort or a prostitute, it is an increase in the addictive cycle of pornography. And there's studies, not that we need them, that prostitutes say when they are hired by people, it is to perform acts that are seen in pornography. So it is you taking pornography to the next level with an actual human being. It is the polar opposite of trying to find a person that you can build connection with, that you're willing to throw yourself out there with in terms of intimacy and in terms of, being yourself, that it's the opposite. And actually on my new playlist, Songs to Quit Porn By, I was thinking this is where this came up with. And honestly, I was in the shower, but I don't want to frame that for anybody. When I was thinking about Green Day, I don't know, hopefully we don't have any Green Day haters out there, because again, I love you some Green Day, is that thinking about, he says that in, I can't remember the name of the song. I'll think of it in a second, but he says that he went to a shrink to analyze his dreams. You know this lyric, anybody out there? And that he says that the shrink says, she says, it's lack of sex that's bringing me down. Then he says, I went to a whore. She said, my life's a bore. So the idea is like, it probably is lack of sex that's bringing life down, because porn isn't sex. Porn's the filler for sex, because you're not willing to put yourself out there to take the harder steps to build a relationship that will last and will have good, connected, intimate sex. And so then the horse saying your life's a bore, I'm always telling people you need to get on purpose in your life. You need to have work you love, you need to have relationships you love, and you need to do the hobbies. If your life is not a bore, you will not be going towards porn to fill that void. You won't level that up and then have to hire an escort, or it's basket case. Thank you. The Rowlett report. It is basket case.
And the money that you spend.
And the thing is, it's connection. I'm going to go back to William of Orange's connection, because I have been in a quote unquote stable relationship for 20 years. And I was in quote unquote not that great relationships before that. And the cool thing, and I know a lot of you may not understand this if you haven't experienced this, but what love is, the question that William of Orange is how do I define love? And my definition of love, actually, I can give you a definition that is based on someone who studied love, and I'll tell you that, but I'll also tell you how it unfolded in my life without sharing too many details, is that there's 3 stages to love. The first is lust. And we know from the science that people who have a pornography problem are stuck in the lust phase. That's part of your brain being stuck in that developmental phase of teenage years. So teenagers are lusty, right? Which that's okay when you're a teenager. But as you grow up, to have a healthy love relationship, it has to transition from lust to coupling. So coupling is like, and that's a bad word, but I Am Sorry oatmeal sandwich, Eminem and Green Day are so cool. I don't care what anybody says. I'm sorry. But so when we go from lust to coupling, if you have a healthy relationship, you shouldn't lose the lust. The lust comes with you. And I know in so many relationships out there, people move from like, okay, we're all lusty and we're in the honeymoon phase, and, you know, we have sex 4 times a day and life's good. And then you move on to, you know, let's be in a relationship. And yeah, maybe 4 times, I know 4 times a day is sustainable over 20 years. But so then when you move to that coupling phase, it should be like, you know, we still really like to be with each other physically, but now we're committing to, you know, finances together. And honestly, we don't even have to talk about marriage. I'm not even saying marriage. My husband and I have had this discussion a lot lately because of our work here, is that, you know, marriage might not be for everybody. And especially as, you know, I'm not going to say it's good or bad, but I'm saying like partnerships are important, and committing to another person, because that's what we want. We want connection. And that coupling is like, okay, we're going to live this life together and share everything about ourselves. You're going to be the one person that when I am a mess, you get to know I'm a mess and I help you. Then you move on to establishing all this stuff. And this is the definition of love that is in the 3rd phase. And this is what I've come to, is that when things get really hard, I'm my husband's person. He's my person. And so when it gets hard, you don't bounce on that person. And that's why if you have that person in your life and you actually love them, you take the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that is the journey together. The journey together is figuring out, because none of it's perfect. So, and some of it's super duper hard. But now we've trained ourselves that like when things get hard, I'm able to give him space. And actually I said it in the podcast yesterday, and I thought some people are not going to like that. I said, if you have GPS trackers on your partner, lose the tracker. Let that person just go do their thing. You don't need to track them. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when trackers started being, everybody, you know, would put themselves into, and I have it for my kids, and actually I don't even put on my kids anymore, is that, you know, let people live their lives, live your lives next to each other in a really supportive way, and not control each other. But again, I'm still in this phase of, you know, over 20 years. So my husband does what my husband wants to, with respect of what would be good for me and him. I do what I want to do with respect for what's good for our relationship. And the cool thing, I remember being, I was out one night at a bar with my friend Ford, who's a man, and he and I were existential, if you haven't guessed that yet. So he's existential like me. My husband doesn't really, he does sometimes talk about this stuff, but Ford likes to talk about this stuff with me. And we're at the bar, and I had this major epiphany, and and he did too. And actually, we were talking about it. And I'm sure it might not be major for all of you here. Here was the epiphany. I have a relationship with my husband, and my husband has a relationship with me. There actually is no our relationship. There's two relationships, the one he has with me and the one I have with him. And Ford and I talked about it for like 3 hours that night, is that once you realize that you have a relationship, the relationship I have to him is different than the one he has to me, but I respect the one he has to me, and he respects the one I have to him. That's where it meets together in our relationship, which I think is really cool. So on the podcast yesterday, I'm like, I have no idea where my husband is right now, and he has no idea where I am. But what will happen is we will come together at the end of the night. We always hang out on the porch, or we hang out somewhere, and we come together, and I'm like, what'd you do today? And, and we'll check in with each other and reconvene. That's what love is. When it gets hard, you can be there for that person. And it's like, I was telling him yesterday too, we do a lot of weird stuff together. Man, I wish every relationship could be like that. We do totally weird things together, and our kids think we're nuts. It's not even funny. And this is what I said to my husband. I burst out laughing like this all the time, and it's not even funny. That's how you know, like, you love someone, because we went to Costco and we brought two of our kids. And I know this isn't funny. And we went at like 6:00 when I should have made dinner for the million other kids that were home. And I got the last pre-prepared chicken at Costco. If you've ever had it, it's really good. So I go over and I see one chicken in the case, and my husband's like far, far away. And I lift the chicken up like Simba in The Lion King. And I'm proclaiming to him across Costco that I got the last chicken. And my son is like, Mom, he's 15. What did he say I was like? Oh, I forget what movie it is when they go through, I don't know. It's some movie where they're in might be Percy Jackson, when they're in the casino, and he's like, you two are embarrassing. And I'm like, yeah, but this is just good, clean fun, man. We're, and that's the essence of it. You can be your weird self with them. You don't have to put on airs. When things get tough, you can be there together. Okay, let's take one more question. Do you have a good light one to end here, Jamie, or?
I do. And I've had a couple of things that are similar to this, but might there be anything good one can do for his or her sexuality while being single? I'm not avoiding it altogether. My fear is that my future partner won't get to know what I like because I don't either. Porn has unfortunately been the only reference to sexuality I've had. No one in my life offline tells me anything.
Yeah, I saw that question, and that's a great question. I loved it. So thank you for bringing it up. And this is tricky, man, but I thought this too, because people have asked me before, is soft porn better for you than hardcore porn? And I'm like, no porn's good for you. But this is the thought that I had, is that if more young people were watching romantic comedies, and I know that might not be the prescription, but learning, and next week, actually it'll probably come out in 2 weeks, but I'm going to film it next week, make it next week. I know we barely can call that filming, but I'm going to make a video on why porn is the worst sex educator that there is. And it comes from new studies showing that, the acts that are in porn, not even the violent ones, women in real life won't even try. And that 97% of the content is violence towards women, and their response is either pleasure or neutral. So it makes young people think this is what women like. Mm-hmm. And it's not. So when you watch rom-coms, and I'm going to talk more about it, and this goes back to listening to audios, we know from the science men are more visual. That's why men are pulled towards pornography. They're more visual when it comes to sexuality. Women are more tactile. They like touch, and they like whole sensory experiences. So if you're out there, and I know some people have put comments that they just met someone and they're excited about it, don't rush into the lust phase. Let that relationship grow. And when you do go to have a sexual experience with that person, light some candles, put some music on. It takes 10 to 12 minutes to get aroused for real people, which is the polar opposite of porn. Take 10 to 12 minutes to let that happen. And, you know, those are the things that you can learn. Teach your brain that. That's what's in romantic comedies. And that's why I'm half joking. But if you want to train your brain what healthy sexuality is, that's how you do it. It should involve romance. In real life, it does. So it's about connection, which is the romantic piece. Stop watching porn because it's the worst sex educator ever. And before we wrap up, thank you everybody for staying with me. I wanted to tell you, Jamie told me I do a terrible job at telling people what we are offering people that they can purchase, but it's not a purchase and this is not a sale. So don't everybody leave, is that we are raising money. We're creating a nonprofit and this is exactly what we want to do is get healthy sex ed programs into middle schools and high schools. And we're working on that. And for the month of September, we're having we're doing healthy sexuality. And so I'm calling it in my mind, quit porn, heal your brain, and have great sex. And we're going to have a program that's going to be $19 and we're hoping people will purchase it, but it's a donation to the nonprofit so that we can make some money so that we can create that program. And we're beginning to reach out to organizations, especially youth organizations, because of what we're talking about. We're here for you. And I want nothing more than to help you back yourself out of this hypersexual, porn looking, checking people out and not spending your time developing intimacy towards a healthy relationship, which takes more work. I know, but it's worth it. So I'm here to help you back that out. But what an amazing thing that we can do together to help young people prevent that from ever happening to them, letting them know that those dangers are there before. I talk to families that are steeped in this, the couples who are steeped in this, and they're like, my teenage kids say that people are watching porn at the lunch table. They watch it in school all day long. Schools aren't doing anything about it. And we are here for that. So we're going to have that available. If you're interested in purchasing it, you'll get a program on how to do those things. But if not, it would at least be a donation for the cause. And then we're going to have to wrap up because I have appointments on Friday afternoons for the rest of the afternoon. So Jamie, thank you again for meeting me here. Thank you everybody for joining us. We're going to be live every Friday at noon. So next week we will be talking about what is good real sex. Coming off of, porn sex versus real sex, that video is coming out next week. And we're talking about what is real, healthy, good sex. We're going to start with what it's not based on some of those studies. And then we are going to, move into if it's not what you see in porn, what is it? And we'll spend a little bit more time. So thank you for joining me and hope you have a beautiful weekend. Go do something, engage in the world. Do not spend your weekend watching porn. If you go do something, go into the world, your brain will thank you. Thanks, Jamie, for joining me. And until next week, have an awesome one. Thank you. Okay, bye, everybody.